Hello everyone. In this demo, we're going to continue our understanding of typographic anatomy by looking at overlap and also looking at legibility of letter forms and words. So to get started, we're going to go to Assignment 2 under the Unit 1 Anatomy of Type. We're going to download the assignment PDF. And open that up. Then we're also going to go to our desktop, and under our documents, from the previous class we had a compendium template that we were working with. We're going to open that as well. So once we have our compendium open, what we're going to do is every time we are adding to our compendium, we're just going to make a new version of the file. So currently we have version 1. Just going to do a save as. And in our documents folder, under design and type, we're just going to create a V2, and we're going to add our overlap and our legibility assignments. So the first step in working with the overlap is to set your word in 100-point type in either Garamond, Bodoni, Century, or anything on the list. So we're going to start at 100-point, and for my example, I'm going to use Universe 100-point and Black 75. Just going to draw text box. I do Command A to select all. Type in Universe 55 at 100-point. The text box is a little too small, so we just have to extend it till the whole entire word comes up. Just going to pull it across. Another thing I would like to do is try to align it with the other example on the left from our Unit 1.1. So to set my text at an opacity of 75%, I'll have to select it, and then under Window, go to Effects, and it'll bring up the Effects palette. And then under that it has your normal layer effects that you can do in Photoshop, but also in Illustrator, and then you have opacity. So I'm just going to set this to 75. The next version of the type I'm going to work with is Century School Book. So a quick way to do this is I'm just going to hold Option and Shift, and it's going to copy my Universe version. I'm going to type in Century School Book, and I'm just going to use regular. So for all the versions, you use Universe 55, which is a regular, Century School Book regular, Bodoni regular. We don't want to be using the bold or italic versions or anything of the actual typeface. So to change the color of the text itself, you have to double click to select all of it, or you can just do Command A to select all of the text. If I don't have the text selected and I select the color from the swatches menu, I'll end up coloring the box and not actually the text itself. So again, if I double click this asparagus text, if I come over to the swatches menu, it'll pop up. I have cyan, magenta, yellow, and red to work with. If you don't have the swatches palette come up, if you go under Window, Color, and then select Swatches, it'll pop up for you. So I'm just going to select cyan, and again, click the box and change the percentage for the opacity. So again, there's two steps. You select the text and you change it in swatches. Then you click the box and you change the opacity in the effects. And it'll be the same step for the next two. So again, I'm just going to copy this again by holding Option and Shift. So in my third version of asparagus, I'm going to select Baskerville as one of the typefaces I'll be working with. And again, make sure you're selecting regular. The color for this one will be magenta at 45%. So again, select the text in the swatches, and then the box for the opacity, which is 45. Then I'm going to duplicate this one again. Look at the typeface choices that I have. I'm going to pick Gill Sands as my last choice at yellow at 75% opacity. So again, swatches, yellow, and 75%. So one of the key takeaways from looking at these 4 different typefaces with the same word is that letters in all typefaces have different widths. And this will impact the length of the word, which will always impact the length of the sentence. So the width of the actual typeface can be controlled with a term called kerning. Now, kerning is a way to control the width of the entire word, but also the space between each letter. So for example, if I double click the whole entire word and hold Option and click a right arrow, it'll go out. It will kern the word out. And if I hit the left arrow, it will kern the word back in. Now, certain ways that the type is drawn, sometimes the space between the letters has different types of gaps. So for specifically in Baskerville here, the ASP is really tight, but the R, the AR, and A are kind of loose. So as a designer, you have the opportunity to actually click in between each letter and be able to adjust the spacing. And this is the kind of control you start to look for when you're kerning and working with typography. You want everything to render as best as it possibly can, or look as best as it possibly can. So now that we have all 4 of our different typefaces we're going to work with, we're going to finish up the overlap part of the assignment. So what I'm going to do is just hold Shift and align the baseline of the word. I'm going to hold Shift again and align the baseline, and then do the same as well for the last one. So now that we have our overlap created, what we want to do is click and drag the arrow tool over all of them to select them. If we hold Option and Shift, it will make a copy that stays aligned with the one above it. The second part of the overlap assignment is just to switch all of these to an outline or a stroke. And I'll just do this with the yellow version, and then you can apply it to each one. I just pull it up a little bit. If I double click, it'll select the text, or again, Command A. And then either in the menu on the left here or in the swatch palette, you can just click this little arrow and it will switch from a fill to a stroke. And you want to do that for each one of your words. So the last part of the overlap assignment, so we can just copy the text for the book and paste. And then as a title, we can just put overlap. In the overlap, please take the time to read through these questions and answer them to the best of your ability. So the next part is to look at legibility of your word. So we need to create another spread to continue on with building our book. So if you go to Pages, or if you don't have that up, you go to Window and you'll bring up the Pages palette. And what this does in InDesign is it pretty much is how you're setting up your book. So what we're going to do is under Master, and if you don't happen to see this, it might be covered up, you just drag this down so you can see the master pages. And I'll discuss what a master page is a little bit further in the semester once you get more comfortable with using InDesign. If we just drag the master in, from the left, it'll set up a page for us. And if we want to, we can do the same for the right with the right page. If you just want to do one page, that's fine. You can do one at a time. The key thing is when you're creating a master page, you can't currently edit anything on a master. Usually masters are used for page numbers and title headings that you don't usually change. For this case, it's to help us keep a consistent page going. So if I click on the left page 4 and hit Control, click, what we want to do is override all master page items on page 4. And what this will allow us to do is then edit the text that we have in place. So now if we look at page 3 of our PDF, we're going to continue with the same size of type. So I'm going to do 100 point, and you can set it in any of those typefaces we were using before. So I'm going to just select the type tool. Type in asparagus. Again, the typefaces that you've used recently will show up at the top of the menu system. And I'm just going to select Baskerville for this example. Again, set it at 100 point. And for this version, for the legibility, we need 3 copies of the word. So again, you can copy Command C, Command V, and you can kind of see what happens when I do that, and then I have to drag and align it. Or again, you can hold Option and Shift, and you can drag and align it. What I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of space with this word. So in this exploration, what we're really looking at is just the legibility of a word. If you cut off the bottom of it, is it more legible than if you cut off the top? And then if you're cutting off certain pieces of each word, of each letter, how does it impact the overall legibility of the word that you're looking at? So this is a pretty easy exercise to do. It's more about observation and less about execution. So if I just simply select the rectangle tool here, and draw a box, and you can see right now I have an outline on the box. You can either change the color by swapping here and then changing the fill to a white, or you can simply go to the swatches palette and select paper as your option. If I hit the arrow, I can drag, and so this gives us a good crop of just seeing the top of the letter forms. If I just Command C, Command V, I can paste it to crop the bottom of the letter forms. And then I can copy that box again, just make it a little bit smaller, and look at cropping each individual letter in different ways to see what I can crop and still understand. So for example, the R itself, I can crop quite a lot of it and still see the legibility that that's specifically an R. So again, there's key characteristics to each letter form that even if you crop it to almost where it's non-existent, you can still make out what letter form that is. So part of this experiment with this last part is to crop as tight as possible or as much as possible of each letter form to see if you can still really understand what letter that is. So again, with the A, it almost abstracts the A to the point where we can't tell what it is, but just because of the stroke of it, we have a pretty good idea that that's the only letter form that it is. So for the rest of this assignment for the legibility, you're just going to experiment with each letter you have to crop it as much as possible and push the legibility of each letter form as much as possible. The last step in finishing our overlap and legibility exercise is, again, before we add in 1.1 text that we copied and pasted over, if we go back to our course website, we have legibility for word and legibility for the letter. We have two paragraphs here. What we're going to do is type in, or we can copy and paste. So legibility for word in this place here. Again, Command C, Command V for letter. We can change these to capitals just so they're consistent. So under legibility of word, what I want you to do is copy and paste that question into place, and then the same with the legibility of the letter. And after you go through experimenting with this, I'd like you to write in your own words what your response is to how much you can cover up a letter and still be able to understand what it is. And that's the same with the word. Take the time to answer these questions, and that'll be the end of the assignment. So the last step is to make sure that you just simply save your file. So when I save, you want to make sure you understand where you put that final file. So again, if I just do a save as, you can see that I put my template in my Design and Type folder. If you want to make another version, you could do a V3. Again, it's good to just keep backing up as you're working through each assignment. So again, at this point, I have a Compendium template version 3, and it has the first 3 pages of my assignment completed. Thank you.